Now, if you see trouble on the streets or a gang of youths causing mayhem, what would you do to help? Try and help, perhaps, or maybe walk away. A new report by the Policy Exchange has asked the nation for its thoughts. It found that 2/3 of the public would not intervene with a gang of teens who are drinking or verbally abusing passers-by. It also discovered that citizens' arrests in the Metropolitan Police area have halved in the last 2 years. There was well over 3,500 of them in 2009 and 10, but only 1,800 in 2011 and 12. There's also a notable geographical difference. Londoners are the least likely to confront troublemakers, and Scots are the most likely. Now, one woman who knows about standing up to youths is Pauline Pierce. She became very well known when video of her during last summer's riots emerged.
She's working hard to make her business work, and then you lot want to go and burn it up for what? Just to say that you're warring and you're bad man. This is about a man who got shot in Tottenham. This ain't about having fun on the road and busting up the place. Get it real, black people. Get real.
Well, I'm pleased to say that the Hackney heroine Pauline Pierce joins me now, alongside Irene Curtis from the Police Superintendents Association, and the author of today's report, Edward Boyd, joins me from Westminster. It's a pleasure to have you all on board tonight. And Pauline, let's start with you. I mean, you've become a hero, particularly in where you live. Why did you decide to do that night, confront the rioters, when you could have easily walked away?
It was quite strange, really, because it wasn't really a decision. It just happened. It was a real spontaneous reaction to what I saw going on in the streets, and it really affected me because it was very hostile and angry people doing ridiculous things, tearing their own communities apart, and I just felt something had to be said.
And what you said was fantastic. I'm sure there are many politicians who would like you to be their scriptwriters, because it was brilliant, wasn't it?
I don't think I could do it.
I think you'd be excellent. Let's bring in Edward now, because Pauline, unfortunately, is very much in the minority, isn't she? We're turning into a nation of walking by, aren't we?
Absolutely. We've seen that citizens' arrests have gone down over the last few years, and people are less willing to intervene in situations, which is why, as part of our research for our report that came out today called Policing in 2020, we looked at what could be done to galvanise public support for the great things that police do and supporting them in their mission of fighting crime. One of the things that we came up with as a suggestion for the newly elected Police and Crime Commissioners was that they should look at setting up what we call Citizen Police Academies, and these would broadly have two roles. The first one, and I think the most important to me, is about actually making sure that people know how to remain safe, and it would teach people on topics from how to make sure that your house is as burglary proof as possible to things along the lines of if you're walking home alone in the dark back from work, to make sure that you do everything you can to make sure that you don't become a victim of crime.
All right, well, let's get the views of the police then. Does that sound like a good idea? Sending people like Pauline and maybe even myself to these police academies so we can learn how to do a copper's job?
I think the principle of educating the public about how to make their homes safe, how they can be safe, is actually a fantastic principle. It's something that actually happens already in many ways, probably not as widespread as we'd like.
What about confronting troublemakers, doing what Pauline did?
I think that's a very, very different principle, and the first principle for any member of the public should be to keep themselves safe. It should be to make sure that they don't get themselves into a situation where they might have problems. And what Pauline did was fantastic. She confronted her local community, but it could have ended up very different. Thankfully, it didn't, and Pauline's still here to tell us.
I suppose, as someone said to me today, because of my physique, I suppose it was an advantage, and I have got a very heavy bass voice. I suppose I probably sounded more threatening to them at the time.
Well, maybe you also, because you were making sense. But one thing the report does say, Pauline, is that there's a sense of a breakdown in trust between the public and the police because people just don't want to report crimes because nothing happens to them anyway. Would you agree with that? Is that something you can resonate in your community?
There's always been that breakdown, and it's something since the riots I've always said we need to kind of build the bridges and rebuild the bridges and try and get back to a bit of that community Bobby on the bike. You know, we've got community officers, but the sad thing is people know that they have no real power. They're no more better than us, only that they're wearing
that's the crux of it,
uniform.
Isn't it? Trying to regain trust with the police.
Well, I would say confidence in policing is actually on the increase. It's been rising for the last 10 years now. So I think there is a rise in confidence in the police. Building trust is definitely something that happens at a neighbourhood level, and it's a really important aspect of policing.
And just a final one to Edward Boyd. We know that your think tank's very close to David Cameron. Is he going to give you any money for this?
It's nothing to do with this. As your listeners will probably know, police and crime commissioners were elected in November, and these are the people who are in charge of policing now, and these are the people who will have to make the decision: do they want to invest in things like Citizens Police Academies to get the public on board to support the police in the mission against crime or not?
OK. Edward Boyd, thank you very much. Irene Curtis,
Thank you.
And Pauline Pearce, a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for coming on.